hi Lucy, welcome to the Offcut Sofa.
Hello,
how are you doing today?
Yeah, I'm doing good. Yeah, thank you for having me.
Yeah, so we've kind of like stalked your Instagram and like TikTok, and we really like the content you put out and like your outfits. But the main thing we want to talk to you about is like your bowel disease and just like your journey really. So if you can tell us a bit about that.
I was diagnosed with ulcerative colitis when I was 17, and then for 2 years I was just battling with it, just trying different treatments. Nothing was working. When I was 19, having a stoma-bag, so a big operation, had my bowel removed, and I've lived with a stoma-bag ever since for the last 4 years. And I always say it's the best thing I ever did because it gave me my life back.
So how did you first come to like the realisation that something wasn't quite right?
I was sitting my A level, so it was like that time when you're stressed and tired, and I just was exhausted. I remember like saying to my mum, like, I genuinely I've never felt this tired in my life. And she was like, well, it'll probably just be exams, stress. And then I started noticing blood in my stool. So when I was going to the toilet, I was bleeding, and I thought at first, I was like, oh, it'll be fine. And then a few weeks went by and I was like, that's not normal. So luckily, my family has always been very much like, if you notice anything different, tell me, because my nana, she has a stoma bag and went through the same thing when she was like 30. So my mum was always aware of what she'd gone through. So there was not really a taboo about it in our family. So as soon as I noticed something, I was like, let's just get it checked.
Yeah. And how did your symptoms like develop on from that point when you realised?
So it started with like just blood in stool, and I wasn't really in much pain for a long time. And then a few months later, I started like with the no control of your bowel movements, and then just like the exhaustion and stomach pains. And it was just over the first like sort of 6 months, I feel like I developed like every symptom that you could have with it. Yeah. Wasn't fun, but then I tried medications to like settle it, and for me, I was on steroids for most of the time because they were the only thing that could like mask it, I guess. So they weren't making it any better, they were just kind of dampening all the symptoms. But alongside that, I was trying like different medications, and just none of them ever touched it. So it was like, you try it, it'd take 3 months to see if it was going to work, and then after 3 months, you'd just be like, it's not working, let's try another one. And it was just that cycle for like 2 years. Meanwhile, I was just like, I always say, I was just existing. I wasn't living my life because it was just hell.
Tiring,
yeah.
How would you say that impacted your quality of life?
So I always say I was just existing. Like I couldn't really live my life. I deferred going to uni. So it was 2 years of just kind of waiting. And I just developed a lot of anxiety and dealt with a lot of like mental health problems that I'd never really dealt with before. But I knew in my head, I was like, I know why I'm feeling like this, because physically I wasn't well, so mentally I wasn't able to do the things I could, or even leaving the house was a big thing. And it's mad to think, because I was always that person who wanted to go everywhere and do everything, and then when that gets taken away from you, like when you kind of lose control in a way, it's just, you just become like a shell of a person. So not years that I would ever want to go through again, to be honest.
I can't imagine it.
Do you think like the NHS do enough to help people with the disease that you have?
I say the NHS are definitely doing the best that they can, because at the minute there's a lot of people and not enough people. A lot of people in hospital and not enough people there. Personally for me, I'm like, I had my operation, I give everything to the NHS because they gave me my life back. But I do know that with inflammatory bowel diseases, a lot of the time diagnosis takes so long, because a lot of times it's written off as IBS or piles, and it just kind of get ignored. And from speaking to a lot of people who've also gone through what I've gone through, diagnosis has taken a lot longer than I guess it should have, because they just get ignored, the symptoms get ignored of something else. So it would be great if everyone could get diagnosed quickly, but you've not probably got enough people to do that.
And do you think because your mum knew that it was like in the family, like it helped with the diagnosis?
Yeah, she kind of said, take pictures. I know it's disgusting, but she was like, take pictures and show them like the extent of it. Because I think when you say that, they probably just like bleeding. Sometimes it's like, oh, it'll just be a one-off. And then when they saw the extent of it, then they're like, oh, we need to get like tests done for you. So and I think because it did run in the family, even though they say it's not hereditary, a lot of people I know, it runs in their family as well. So
And what would you say people's reactions are to when you like tell them you have a stoma? Like, How
I
do
think
they
majority of
react?
the time it is just like interested and intrigued.
Yeah.
I've never really had anyone be like disgusted by it or be like, oh, I don't want to talk to you because you've got a stoma bag. But yeah, most of the time people just want to know what it is, because I always
Yeah.
think like unless you know someone that's got one or you've got one yourself, probably not going to know what it is, because it's not something that you're going to like go and research randomly, is it? So a lot of the time if people don't know, I'm always open to like tell them what it is and tell them why I've got it and stuff, because at the end of the day I do think like if you don't know, you are probably going to be a bit ignorant to it, and that's not a problem. Like, you just got to educate people.
Yeah, I guess sometimes people are just curious, aren't
Yeah,
they, really?
that's what I always tell myself, like, just been in Ibiza and like if I'm wearing a bikini and you can see my stoma bag, and like I know people look at it, but I'm like, they're not looking because they're like, ooh, like what's
yeah,
that?
they're
Yeah, it's
like,
just
"Oh,
like,
what's
oh
that?"
yeah,
Yeah.
what's that? That's what I tell myself anyway.
Yeah.
But.
So is that like what you're like kind of using the social media for, to like bring awareness to it and educate people as well?
Yeah, I think so, because like my sort of social media journey started back when I was like 12, and I just loved like sharing my style and stuff. I had a little blog. Thought I was like 30 years old like with my little blog post, and I was just not. Yeah, so I was doing that, and then had obviously all this happen, and I was like, how can I combine like fashion and sort of raising awareness for living with a stoma? Then it's kind of just developed into like a little community, I guess, because I feel like fashion's like my main thing, but I do always want to use like my voice to reach a different audience, because the reason I try and combine like fashion with a stoma is because it'll reach the people that love fashion, it'll reach people that like my outfits, and then those people will see my stoma and be like, oh, she's got that, like what's that kind of thing.
So you spoke a little bit about like going, you know, being at the beach and being in your bikini, but what is it like going out to like festivals and like, you know, combining like your fashion sense with the...
So I'm very much like, I don't stop it wearing, from me wearing what I want, I will wear like my crazy festival outfits, but I love it, that's just who I am. And at festivals, I genuinely think having a stoma bag has made festivals easier, because the toilets are just not bad. I don't have to sit down, so I'm like, yep. And I have access to like disabled toilets and stuff. But yeah, at festivals I find it absolutely fine. Like, it doesn't faze me, but I know there's a lot of people that get worried like, oh, well, what if I had a leak, or if this happened? But I'm just like, well, you're not going to know, are you, unless you try it. So, and I've never had any situation at a festival like that, and I've been to many with a stoma bag, so...
And do you think like festivals and places like that are doing enough for, you know, what you're experiencing?
One of the things I will say is you can get access to like a disabled camping site, and they've got like clean disabled toilets and things like that. But I remember going to a festival a few years ago, and the disabled toilet that they had in the arena was not manned by anyone. It didn't have a lock on it, and it was just a mess in there.
Yeah.
And I was like, luckily I didn't need it for changing my bag, because I do that like at the campsite in my tent, because I just find that my tent is the cleanest place to do it at a festival. But like if you were having an emergency in the middle of a festival and you needed that toilet and it wouldn't be clean enough for someone to use it to change the bag, and I do think that you need some way of keeping the disabled toilets like manned, or even a lock, like a radar key like usual, just some way of stopping everyone going in there, because I get it, everyone needs a toilet, like you see free toilet, you're running it, it's a festival, but like at the end of the day, like some people actually need that to be clean and actually need it, like they can't go in a normal toilet for that. So I'd say they're doing all right, but they could definitely be doing better.
And do you think like it's impacted like your relationships or friendships in any way, positively or negatively?
Yeah, I'd say I don't think necessarily having a stoma bag has, but I think going through everything that I went through has definitely made me like realise the types of people that I want to be surrounded by, and like I know what I want, I know who I am, like I don't like have time for people that aren't gonna, you know, like respect everything about me and like embrace everything about me. Like my friends on holiday just big me up so much, because it is a bit nerve-wracking sometimes, like you sat around a pool, especially in Ibiza, where everyone looks like they've just stepped out of like a film or something. But yeah, all my friends like big me up and make me feel dead confident about it. So I think in a sense of like everything that I've gone through has taught me to just value the people that you surround yourself with more, and like choose the best people.
So one of the questions is, do you date? Like, are you dating at the moment? And if so, is it something you kind of bring up at first, or like is it something you won't say at first?
Yeah, I mean, I try to date, but my dating life is not that exciting at the moment. But I think it's just something that naturally can come up in conversation sometimes, and obviously if you're like exchanging like Instagrams, or they're obviously going to see that I've got a stoma bag. But to be honest, I've never really had much of a problem with it. I mean, it is something that you get a bit conscious about. That's why I'd rather tell someone, because like in a situation they just see it, they might be like, what the hell's that? I always think like the people that matter don't mind, and the people that mind don't matter. Like that's my sort of outlook on it. And like I've never had a like serious relationship, so I can't really compare life prior to going through what I have to life now. I'm just like, the right person will be comfortable with it, you know.
Exactly. Like if they're the right person, then like nothing should like, matter.
Exactly.
So
So would you like to see like more done on dating apps for people with like illnesses or, you know, long-term diseases?
I guess like if I'm using a dating app, I won't write on it about having a stoma bag. I won't. It's just part of me. Like I don't. That's not really like who I am. I don't know, because I think it's sort of down to you to put yourself out there, and you know, you'll meet some people that you can probably instantly be like, nah, they're not gonna get on board for having a stoma bag. But yeah, I don't think like dating wise, I think it is all like personal preference. Like I know some people probably would freely like post a picture on the profile with the stoma bag out, and I probably would, but I just feel like I don't need to. If I actually gonna get to know them, they'll probably see my Instagram and that kind of thing. Like,
so how does something like a stoma bag impact like sexual relationships?
I guess in a way, I think at the start it made me a bit more conscious, and I had a whole kind of weird thing of growing up like being 17, 18, 19, the only people that had seen me like naked, I guess, were doctors, because it was me having like different like intrusive sort of surgeries and things like that, and you just get so like it just becomes so normal to you to just people be looking at you as a problem. And I think after having my operation, because when I was ill, that was the last thing on my mind, dating, I was like, nope, like I need to get better. So then after having my operation, and I guess having this like confidence with my stoma bag, like I can talk about it like an outwardly confidence, but I think when you're in an intimate situation, it can be very different, because it's like, yeah, I can talk about it and be so confident, and like, because I think in my head, if I'm confident about it, then no one's going to knock me down for it. But when you're like one-on-one with someone, it can be different, because if they were to turn around and be like, what's that? Like I think that would hurt more. So I think getting used to like my body not in a medical way was a bit hard at first, but I think like 4 years down the line, I'd say I'm pretty confident with it now, and it's just something that, again, like the right person's not gonna bother and will make me feel comfortable with it, I guess.
And like, have you received any like negativity towards you about it?
I've had a few of the like Instagram trolls that like to tell you to drink herbal teas and aloe vera and it will grow my bowel back, and I'm like, oh, you just go away. Like, to be honest, I've never had anyone be negative. Like, I don't care if someone writes me online, you've got to do that. Like, I just ignore that. But to my face, I've never had anyone be negative and make me feel like awful about it. And to be honest, like if anyone was to, I'd just look at all the positives of it and what I'm doing now, and I'm like, well, you don't matter, do you? Like,
no. So yeah, if someone were to say something, you would just say like,
I'd just be like, thanks. Appreciate it.
Do you think that brands are kind of doing enough for people with like yourself with stoma bags to like express themselves?
I think there's always more that brands could be doing in terms of like inclusivity and diversity and like the whole realm of all that. With a stoma bag, when I first got it, like trying to find people that were talking about it or like represented, especially in the fashion world, like there is not a lot of representation for any kind of disability in the fashion world, and it is definitely changing. And I think brands are definitely trying to do more, but I think there is always more that can be done. And as well, for it to not be like a token thing, you know, like use like the token disabled model or the token like different race model, do you know what I mean? Like it should just be normal. Like we should just have a spread of people that are all different and all celebrated, and it shouldn't feel like it is that sort of token card, especially like in the fashion industry. Having worked in like the inclusive sort of sphere of fashion and speaking to different people in there and learning that like you can see a catwalk and like there'll be one disabled model in comparison to like 20 non-disabled, and it would just be so nice to have a mixture of everyone and everything.
Definitely.
So would you class yourself as like having a disability, or would you class that as like a negative term?
So I don't think it's a negative term, but but it is weird because I'm technically disabled now, but I'm more able than I was when I had the illness. So yeah, I've got physical disability, but I'm more able than before. So to me, like, my colitis was kind of the disability, but I just think it's just part of what I am.
How does it make you feel?
No.
How does it make you feel when people will use like the disabled toilets and stuff, like if they don't even need it? Like, does that frustrate you?
Yeah, it's hard to know because I've had so many situations, because I don't look disabled. Like, people look at me going in a disabled toilet and be like, what are you doing? Why are you using that? But I guess it's hard to gauge who is disabled and who isn't. So I think, yeah, it's annoying when people who aren't will use it, and especially at festivals, and make a mess and take advantage of it. How do you know? Like, I'd never question anyone using it because I don't look disabled, and people have approached me and been like, well, why are you using that? So I'd never say that to anyone, but it would just be nice if, just respectfully, people who don't need to use it just don't use it.
Being disabled is not really a negative term to you. Do you think that we should like change that, and how do you think we should change that?
I guess there's like a stigma and like a taboo around disabilities, and I think as part of it as well is someone who doesn't exactly know what your disability is or doesn't know everything about it. Sometimes you can feel a bit scared to ask, or a bit like intimidated by not knowing. People being like, it's okay to ask questions, it's fine to not know, it's all about learning and educating, and not thinking of us. Like, I love to learn about people, I love to learn what people have gone through and asking like the ins and outs of things. And I think as a society, maybe not being so scared to ask those questions, and, you know, broach the questions in like a positive way rather than just being like, oh, like, what's wrong with you kind of thing. Yeah, like it should be an open conversation to have, I guess.
And finally, what do you think the most positive thing is about actually having a stoma? Like, what's the best thing that's kind of like came out of it? Best thing that's kind of happened to you since?
I think just literally everything. I know that sounds mad, but I was on such a different path before having my illness. Like, I was going to move to London, study fashion, stay in London. That was my dream, and I'd probably become one of them like fashion bitches down in London. Like, that was my dream. Haven't done that, and I tried it, didn't like it, came home, then started doing all this stuff through social media and meeting different people. And I think my favourite thing from the platform I've made is all the different people I've met, and like the stories that I've got to know through them, and the things that I've done with people. And yeah, it's just mad, like one little thing could change the whole like path of your life. Yeah, and I'm like, I still don't know where I'm going, I'm still winging it, but I'm like, so far everything's kind of working out, and I feel like I'm in a very positive space of the industry, and I really like being there and working in that and getting to help other people and learn about other people.
Yeah, that's really nice.
Yeah, it must be nice having like just like a nice little like community where you
you're
like,
and it's like
kind of going through the same thing.
Yeah, like some of my best friends now I've met through social media, and like they've not necessarily like gone through what I've gone through, but like one of my best friends that I was just away with, she's a doctor, and like she'd seen what I'd gone through, and that she has her own clothing brand as well, so she'd been speaking to me about life with the stoma, and then we just have become really close friends. And it's just mad that like I've met all these people through that platform that is, I guess, grown because of having a stoma bag and doing this style of a stoma. So yeah, it's all crazy, to be honest.
Well, yeah, thank you so much, Lucy, for joining us, and thanks everyone for watching.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.